So I'll do such a nice tee up. So I'm going to throw a statement in, which is like a big hand grenade into all of this. So first of all, I think let's tackle the question that you asked, which I think is a great question. So I see it, it's actually some cases in some countries, it's hindered innovation as well. So I particularly look at America as an example, particularly with healthcare and HIPAA. I think that was done with the right intention, but in the end, it was the patient that suffered, because if you move from state to state, there was no guarantee that that hospital would know who you were. It all depends if each state felt comfortable and understood the laws within their own state to even share the data. It almost feels like back in the day with the early forms of cybersecurity in a business. Don't tell them until the last minute because they're going to say no. And usually they do because you left it too late. And data privacy has become a little bit like that in terms of how I used to be involved in projects. It was trying to figure out the ways that we could use it. And it became so difficult. In some cases, you avoided it because of the pitfalls. I also think privacy has also become a bit of a deflection to what's really going on. I actually think what's going on today with the way we use data is unregulated banking. That's actually what's going on. And I'll give you an example. So if I go to my bank today and I deposit money, they will guarantee that money for a certain figure by law. I think in the UK, I think it's like £50,000, maybe more in the US. They're also regulated to how much they can use that data for, their money for what purpose under certain conditions. But yet, if I deposit my data into a storage provider and they delete it, it's, oops, I'm really sorry. And there's no guarantees. And I always use this example to someone. Data's got to the point, I would argue, that if you gave someone the choice, would you be okay if your bank lost $1,000 or if they lost 10 years of photographs of your family? Which one would be more important to you? And that's what it's come down to. If you apply the logic of all of the cloud providers in all of the UK and the globe, they account probably for all of the Fortune 500 companies' storage and most of our storage, but none of it falls under any form of regulation. And the only thing that we can tackle it with is privacy. So I think what's happened with privacy is it's focusing rightly on protecting the citizen, but in doing so, it's almost deflected the bigger picture. So I go back to the days in banking in the UK when mergers and acquisitions created 9 banks. Think about it today, we have Google, Facebook, etc. What are they doing? They're massive acquisitions of small tech players to consolidate an industry. So it almost is following a complete replica of the banking crisis, where banks became too big to fail. Also had too much influence and little choice for the consumer. So I think when we start looking at data in a different narrative, we start to realize that we've created a system which limits people's potential, but I would also argue limits even the cloud provider's potential because of the way that we've looked at data just through one lens, rather than looked at it as something that gives everybody massive potential. Maybe privacy wouldn't have been, if we'd have done it that way, I mean, maybe privacy wouldn't be the only lens that we looked into this. And I think once we start looking at data this way, I think regulators and governments will apply a very different lens to data and start to look at it as really what it is, which is the cornerstone of everyday life.